happy to share what I have actually a presentation that shows the robot, so it could be easier for everybody to understand. And feel free to stop me with any question, any comment.
If you wouldn't mind, go ahead and first show us the product.
Yeah.
So we can visualize what we're looking at. Yeah.
Let me see if you can see my screen. Yep. Well, the new category that we develop is magnetic assisted robotic surgery, that we call it MARS. That's kind of how we are evolving this space. And in surgery, I mean, there's kind of agreement that robots will be part of the surgical process. Makes a lot of sense, but still there's a lot of space for bringing a new robot that really feels the need of having kind of like accessible cost, that is easy to use, that you have access in a broader way, not just in selected centers, that is very in line with your workflow of the surgery, and also that is important, not forget to bring patient benefit, because sometimes people are very focused in the technology but forgets that our core goal is bringing patient benefit. So that's why we have a very different approach. Let me see this video. It's we are empowering the surgeon with robotics. We don't replace the surgeon. So it's a new way of seeing robotics. Also, we leverage our magnetic technology, and we give 2 extra hands for the surgeon. One controls the camera that you need for visualization of the procedure, and the other one, you control the magnet that we already proved that enables the reduction of incision. So it's a new approach to robotics. We see this as a surgical assistant robotic. We gave more capabilities to the surgeon, but the surgeon is always in control. And as I mentioned, we combine our magnetic technology that enables the less ports, less pain, and better visualization, because you can really have a dynamic traction, plus the stability and control that gives you robotic. So we combine that, always thinking in a product that has like a massive use, always thinking about the high volume procedures. So that's how it's like the approach that we are following. That's
Here's what I'm thinking, and again, just from a visualization, I'm trying to get in my mind. A magnet has 2 parts. I understand this top part. We're talking about minimizing incisions. How do you get the other part inside the body?
Yeah, I have an animation that shows that. It's just a inner piece. I mean, this is the inner piece. I don't know if you can see it. We deployed this inside of the cavity. I don't know if you see it. I can show you. I have a video. And then you use an external magnet to move it. So you are not restricted by the entry point. You don't damage the abdominal wall to generate the force. So it's a very versatile and very effective way of generating the visualization in terms of moving the upper
organs. So I understand
organs.
you. It's not that you reduce the number of incisions, you reduce the size of the incision.
No, actually we reduce the number of incisions, because you deploy this by one trocar, by an entry point, you leave it inside, and then you use the other port, that incision, for other instruments. So actually we reduce the number of incisions between 1 to 3 incisions, depending how you change your technique. So, and usually we avoid incisions are in the upper part of the abdominal cavity, kind of like in the epigastric area, that actually is linked to more pain. We have more sensitivity in this area. So if you avoid those incisions, even you have a better outcomes.
So the value proposition is, with this device, less incision equals less pain equals faster recovery.
Yeah, and we have a very nice study conducted by Duke University that demonstrate that in bariatrics, using our technology compared with using kind of the magnetic system compared with the traditional way, you reduce pain and reduce length of stay.
So I know from Gunter, he taught me how everything that you want to commercialize has to appeal to the value analysis committee, clinically, operationally, and financially. Clinically, I understand. Operationally, it sounds like it might be, a challenge to learn, but once you do, it's fine. Financially, I wonder how that number works. Is it that we turn a bed faster?
Exactly. I mean, that's the end of having patients. We have data that shows that patients have less time in the PACU, in the recovery unit, and also they use less beds, less time in the bed. So even you can reduce the days in terms of a length of stay. So you have savings for kind of the post-operatory care that traduce and kind of like is over the cost of the device itself. So
very interesting. Please continue.
Yeah. So that was kind of the first product, and that's why we are evolving now to the robotic platform, because The first product is mainly focused for the patient because you reduce incisions, you have less pain and faster time. But with the robot, the interesting thing is that you as a surgeon have more control, you see better, but also you are not dependent so much of an assistant. So you are more independent to control the surgery. So also it's a better platform for you as a surgeon to perform the procedure. And for the hospital, well, robots and magnets is a clear differentiation that is very important because patients really like to have the latest technology, and it's a way of also differentiating the centers to attract more patients. Also, you reduce the use of assistants, so you can manage your team in a better way. So you can relocate assets in a better way. And also, this is very focused for outpatient surgery. It's very focused for ambulatory surgical centers environments that the workflows are very fast, the turnover is fast. So our robot is designed for working very kind of like fitting in that space of the care. We did an analysis. I don't want to go too much deep, but we see now that the robots that currently exist are more focused for very complex procedures because they are big, they're expensive, they are like big machines. And the fit on the surgical space is more for complex cases that you need to do a lot of suturing, a lot of reconstruction. That is kind of prostate is a very good example because it's a very difficult procedure, deep in the pelvis, 4 hours. So it makes sense to have a huge robot as the Da Vinci. That is a very cool technology and very useful, but for that segment. And we see that all the new entrants are following the same model of big console, taking out the surgeon next to the patient, putting in this console, big robot, and also you need a very highly trained team. So that's why we're focusing in the less complex but more volume procedures that you don't need so much. For example, suturing. I mean, in gallbladders, sleeve gastrectomy, you just use a stapler, so you use a clip. So this is very focused on what you need as a surgeon, and also bringing patient benefits. So that's how our approach is different. The surgeon is next to the patient. We don't need a console. So also you need a smaller ORs that is more in the ambulatory surgical environment. You reduce the number of incisions from 1 to 3, depending the technique. Very easy to use, very easy to set up, designed for high volume procedures, very designed for ambulatory surgical setting. And we're gonna get the FDA clearance, hopefully next year, early next year.
Clearance for what?
For use in the US, for the robot.
I see. It's not used in the US at all.
Not yet. I mean, we conduct a clinical trial outside of the US that shows that works very nicely. And also our robot is an accessory to our magnetic system. So that's why we want to have the same indications.
So all of the procedures have been done in Chile?
Yeah, the clinical study, we conduct 50 patients in Chile, yeah.
Okay, and if you wouldn't mind, go back two slides. So you put your great big box over lots of companies or over lots of procedures.
Yeah, if I don't believe in our company.
Well, I think that's great. Well, I guess my question is, how developed is the market? So we see all these circles of various sizes. Are you walking into a great competitive minefield, or these are big ideas that have not yet been seized and you're getting there first? Help us understand where you are competitively.
Yeah, I mean, we see that we don't compete with Intuitive or the Hugo from Medtronic because we are another approach. I mean, we're in a different market fit. As I mentioned, the approach that Intuitive, Medtronic, other companies is more focused to very complex oncological procedures, for example, that you have to do a lot of node resection, a lot of reconstruction, that you need a lot of like suturing. And if you see the less complex procedure, for example, a gallbladder or a sleeve gastrectomy, they are like, I don't know, 30-minute procedures that, as I mentioned, you don't do suturing, you use mostly clips or mechanical staplers. So it's another kind, it's a very different procedure. Even if it's abdominal surgery, they are totally different kind of from a conceptual and for a workflow.
I think my confusion is the way that the chart is laid out, but I think I understand now. Only where you show company logos is there a competitor.
No, it's a robot. It's a robot in development or in the market.
Right. So where you have put your box, you have no logos. Are you saying that you are taking a space that nobody is in? Because I saw all of the activity there, and I thought, oh, there's a lot of activity going on there. But you're taking a part of the market that's not yet addressed. Is that right?
Yes, with robotics. So that's why we're very focused in the medium to low complexity procedures. that we see that the current robots in the market and in the other in development are more tackled to the complex procedures.
Okay.
That
I'm a
actually
very visual person. So as I was thinking in the beginning, like, wow, this is a really beautiful deck. Congratulations. This is the first one that wasn't intuitive to me. No offense to Intuitive Surgical. So maybe
sorry, this is a pretty nice slide. And if you look at the legend, like you can see colorectal is a pretty large circle, but that's procedures, surgical procedures. And there's a little tiny 4% orange, which is the robotic penetration. Maybe whatever's under Titan Medical is a little easier to see. I don't know what the procedure is there, but 36% robotic usage in this large procedure.
Yeah, this is hysterectomy, yeah.
Yeah, so you can see the oranges are where robots are currently used, and maybe Alberto's trying to hit all of these dots.
I see. I think where it is there.
I mean, yeah.
Well, what I would suggest then is for your dumber audiences like me, that wasn't like, oh, I get it. You know, it was just like, I saw the legend, but it was too dense and I didn't really absorb it. So maybe in the setup of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry if I was too fast. Well,
no. You did fine. It's just, I didn't grasp it.
Yeah. Here's we have the complexity. We divided the complexity of the procedures in high, more than 3 hours, moderate between 1.5 and 3 hours, and low complexity, less than 1.5 hours. The size of the balls are the cases per year conducted in the market. This is the average reimbursement in the US. And the orange is the penetration of robotics today. That
there's probably, I would probably do like a 3-layered thing. I might start with just showing companies so we can see first that you are going to dominate, we hope, an area that is completely unaddressed, and then lay in, show all of the procedures that involves. And that's even more exciting potentially to an investor that you might present this to. To me, it would be more like, oh, wow, okay. And that was lost on me. That's all.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the feedback. So
you're welcome.
So yeah, but
are you going after all of these indications or selected ones so far?
So far, we have gallbladder, we have bariatrics, we have colorectal. Those are indications that we currently have. We're working for next year also to get GYN, because, for example, tubal ligation, that also is in the less complex procedures, very frequent, and also in the kind of more ambulatory surgical care. That's why our space is more in this kind of quadrant of the market, the less complex but high volume. That actually there's also a big shift of all these less complex to be performed in an ambulatory surgical kind of environment or care, kind of like less than 24 hours in the hospital, send the patients home as early as they can. And that's why our value proposition of bringing less pain to the patient, giving operational capabilities to the surgeon to perform fast and less dependent of an assistant makes a good fit in the market, and that's how where we're heading to.
You know, I might even suggest watch this video when we're done to see kind of where all the conversation was, and I'm sure there'll be other topics covered later. When you said magnetic, I think everyone's for magnetic robotic, everyone first thought intuitive. And if you were to perhaps even start, you've all heard of this name, and you put that here, and then you show this is where we're targeting, you know, come along for the ride. I'll explain this to you, how we're going to do this, and that's not where they are. That might even bring me in even sooner, like, oh, okay, tell me about that.
Okay, yeah, open to suggest. So this is our robot. It's a 2-arm robot. That's a current version. It's 2 robotic arms, 7 degrees of freedom. We leverage our magnetic technology. We use off-the-shelf camera that actually we provide stability and robotic control. We also use a foot controller, very easy to use, very intuitive, more intuitive than other robots. And small cards, you can really play with the position and also move from one OR to the other, because that's the idea of our robot, to be very functional, very easy to use and move. We have the support from recognized key opinion leaders from different institutions. We have done publications with them with the first system. They really back of what we're doing, because they see that we bring this triple benefit that is very appealing and very unique. So we have the luxury to be working with recognized centers, and those also. So we want to keep in the next phases. We want to be very close to the academia, because we like to publish in good journals and demonstrate that what we're doing is good. As a summary, we developed the first product. As I mentioned, we create the category. We have done more than 5,000 cases with that. We have a lot of publications, and we have also a very good IP position. We developed the robot. We're already using it in clinic. We know that it's working very nice, and we're expecting to have FDA clearance early next year. Then we're going to go to a commercial launch and demonstrate adoption in high volume GI surgery. That's our focus. And as a third step, we clearly see the benefits of combining AI and robotics. Also, there's a huge opportunity in terms of data gathering. I mean, using robots in order to combine it with AI to generate data that helps the surgeon, to help the OR. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities that we are actually working on that. In order to always bringing benefit to the surgeon, we want to incorporate communication capabilities, and then we see that this product will have a very nice market fit in a global scale.
How many employees do you presently have?
We're like 25.
Okay.
We're still very small, but we are growing now.
And do you have any revenue yet?
I mean, we are commercial just in the Dallas area with the first system. After COVID, we decided to more focus in developing the robot than trying to really commercialize the first product.
Of course, no, I know.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, in Chile, do you have any revenue in Chile?
No, we use Chile as a proof of concept clinical kind of field. We conduct a lot of clinical trials over there, and more than really a commercial validation.
John Tugwell, what you wrote is interesting, I'm sure, to Alberto. Would you tell us about that?
Well, I used to be at Accuray, which is a robotic radiosurgery, for about 2 years or so, and then I went to Intuitive Surgical as head of supplier development engineer for 4 years before I moved on to Berkeley for the exoskeleton. But I agree with Joe, it's very confusing, the graph that shows where you position yourself. And I think whenever I think robotics and surgery, Intuitive is by far the largest company. And I think you should show more how you differentiate between them and start off with the assumption that most people know about Intuitive and how you're different. I think it would be a better presentation that way.
I'm intrigued too. Well, first, let me ask you, John, is there something in your work as head of supplier development engineering that could be useful for Alberto? Because you're no longer there. It wouldn't be a conflict. Is there some way you can help my friend?
Yes, in the sense of working with suppliers is absolutely strategic. I mean, business is about generating successful customers, in this case, successful patients in hospitals, but it's equally about aligning your suppliers and supply chain to be on the same pathway, creating. And I spent of that 2 to 3 years working with the suppliers to help make them successful. So from a business and success viewpoint for patients, that is a great lesson learned there.
Thank you for that. I'm curious, Andrea, again, with, to John's point, and we think about Intuitive, and I have to only guess how many hundreds or thousands of patents and such that they have. How
it's
strong.
Thousands. It is thousands. Yeah.
I'm just kind of triangulate that conversation about the strength, Alberto, of your IP portfolio, and how strong it is against someone with great pockets to mess with things. I don't know, just kind of an open-ended question.
I think the advantages Alberto outlined of the simplicity of the system, that it's not a big robotic, contraption, that translates to the IP side as well, because a lot of the big players like Intuitive, Medtronic, most of their IP, right, is complex, and that's one way for companies who are trying this newer approach of robotic assisted versus robotic surgery. I think that is the way actually where a lot of headway is going to be done in the next decade. that is a way to sort of get in and take some, not just market share, but patent sort of not white space, but patent space, and be able to get in there despite the enormous amounts of robotic IP out there.
Thoughts, Alberto?
Yeah, totally agree with what Andrea is saying. That's the approach that we have. Our core IP is based on magnets. That's our core IP. Our second layer is combination of magnets and robots, and our third IP is combination of AI and machine learning tools combining with this. So that's the space that we own. We're very comfortable with our IP position. So that's why we're very excited, because we see that magnets is the core kind of transformational technology that enables to do more things, and we're the first one we develop it. So we're very comfortable, and we see robots as a more a leverage, because also, I mean, robots have been in the market for what, 30 years, so the IP is getting a little bit old. So
my very flexible friend Shrikar jumped on a plane with no notice at all when his boss Shannon Clark at UserWise took ill right before the last 10x, and he gave a fine presentation, and he has a question for you or a comment. Shrikar.
Thanks for that introduction, Joe. Always fun to be in these webinars with you. Alberto, that was an amazing and innovative product, and thank you for sharing that presentation. First of all, my name is Shrikar. You pronounce that the same way. It calls someone who shrieks a lot, a shrieker. And I work for UserWise Consulting, a human factors and usability consulting firm that's based here in San Jose, California. Actually, our founder and principal human factors engineer, Shannon Clark, used to work at Intuitive Surgical as a human factors engineer. And I personally, over the past 8 months, have been solely involved in conducting human factors and usability related activities for robotics, surgical robot systems. So this is of great interest to me. And I was wondering if there was any kind of usability related findings that you've had, because I see that in the pictures you've shown, the surgeon is in a standing position and you do have a foot pedal. A foot pedal, usually in more complex systems, as you pointed out, is in like a cockpit and a console system, and the surgeon is sitting down, and the foot pedal is like more accessible when sitting down. I can see that there might be certain issues if a person is standing up to use a foot pedal where they have to lift their whole leg up in the middle of the surgery. So is that something that you might have considered? Were there any findings around that?
Yeah. I mean, actually, the human factors is one of my I really like that aspect. And you see our products. I mean, our first product, our robot, as a very simple, but we are doing a lot of research, especially focusing on ergonomics of the surgeon in terms of how this foot pedal and the position. So yeah, to make it like short, we have done a lot of research, and that's why we also conduct a lot of clinical trials very early on in terms for validating these concepts. And also, as I mentioned, we are very close to recognized key opinion leaders that we bring to our lab. We introduce them to the different kind of interfaces very early on, and we validate that is very kind of friendly with the surgeon. And actually, yeah, we have conducted multiple formative, summative, every study that related to human factors we conducted, because our goal is developing a good product for surgeons. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, thanks for clarifying. I mean, yeah, my kind of question comes from, I recently, I had a chance to talk with an IEC standards thought leader, Michel Brossois, who develops standards related to robotically assisted surgical equipment. That's RASE, RACE. So that's another person in the race theory, I guess. But anyway, so there's these people working in the forefront of robotics, and all of them seem heavily concerned with the lack of focus around minimizing the workload on the surgeon's aspect. But I understand that your system is more on a lighter complexity work environment, but even still a magnetic, minimal incision system, I can see how that is a novel concept, and I can see how that can cause some kind of more discussion around reusability. And if you ever feel like you would like to brainstorm about that, I'd be happy to jump on a call with you. But yeah,
we're neighbors, so yeah, happy to because
we're based here in Menlo Park. Exchange information anyhow, even if you don't need to hire Shrikar and his company. There's a lot of energy in that young man, and maybe there's an idea to bounce around one day. Mark, you had a question about the about the tool.
Well, I was just curious because you have apparently strong magnets. Had that had an effect on the other tools that the surgeon uses? And what it's just general curiosity as to what kind of measures you took to address that.
Yeah, that's a great question, and actually was one of the also the first FDA questions in terms of how the magnets affects other instruments, other equipment in the OR. And actually, we have demonstrated that the effect is minimal. I mean, most of the instruments that you use in the OR nowadays are kind of like not affected by magnets.
Sure.
Mostly because they do it kind of MRI kind of compatible. So most of the instruments are not affected by magnetic fields. And actually, we demonstrate that for the FDA. In the clinical and the commercial cases, we always monitor if there's an interference, and so far we have not found anything. So,
Alberto, hi, it's Ed Capobianco. We use magnets in my company, but nowhere near as complicated as yours. But a question's come up from our regulators quite recently. Obviously, you are an active medical device because you're performing surgery, but does the regulator perceive the magnetic field as a reason that you're active, or are they not even focused on that?
I mean, we have very good communication with the FDA. I mean, in the process that we create the category when we did the de novo pathway, the FDA actually was very, very, how to say, communicative with us, and mostly we work together in terms of demonstrating that this was safe, that this was also useful for patients. So I mean, we understand there is a new technology. Well, magnets also has been around for a long time. There's a lot of human interactions for mostly MRI kind of research. So there's consensus that they are safe. But of course, yes, we demonstrate that the magnet that we use in surgery, it's beneficial in terms of a potential risk. So yeah, I mean, we address the points, and we are always, for us, safety is the primary focus. So all our clinical trials, we are very directed for potential adverse events related to the use of magnets. But I mean, it's a very safe technology, and so far is demonstrated that it's better for patients.
Are you using electromagnets or standard magnets?
That's a very good question. In the commercial product, it's a permanent magnet, but actually we have an active line of research in electromagnets. See this, we see this. We see this as a minimal viable product. We have a very strong pipeline of improvements and new products that we are going to develop in the next coming months and years.
How will you manufacture?
We are setting our manufacturing capabilities here in California. So we are establishing our capabilities for our own manufacturing.
So you plan to do that yourself, not have a contract organization manufacture for you?
I mean, we subcontract some activities, of course. We're a small company still, so we use some help for activities that make sense. But we have a plan to start our own manufacturing in the near future.
In California?
So far, yes.
Andre, anything to say, question, watch outs for him?
Hey, Alberto, how are you? Very curious because we actually did some work with a company called X Surgical, which was for remote robotic surgery. And we developed some of the circuit boards and firmware and so forth that was used in that product. So I don't know if you were familiar with that company called X Surgical.
No.
So yeah, that's what Joe's referring to. We did some of the contract development and manufacturing for that company.
Another conversation for you to have, and this is really the point. I mean, yes, I wanted to catch up with you after all these years and learn about what you're doing, but that's why I invited my buddies here. They might at least have some advice or insights that you might not have had. David, you have a question?
I do. I posted it, but Alberto, I'm a little confused on the intended use of your device. When I looked at 510K summary, the system's designed to grasp and retract tissue. Grabs the fundus of the gallbladder on the one I have on screen, you push it aside, or so you can expose a ligating site or a cutting site. So obviously that requires a separate tool, which suggests to me there's a second laparoscopic port. So you've been talking about minimized surgery, rapid healing, maybe one less laparoscopic port, but I'm just kind of wondering where that all comes from, and how do you grasp the tissue?
I mean, it's a self kind of it's a good question. It's a self grasping. It's kind of like it's a spring loaded the incision. So you deploy it and it's grasping the tissue. So then you put the magnet and you make the traction. And actually, yeah, the how to say, like the simplistic way of looking this is that we just reduce one incision that actually in the bariatrics is the most painful one because it's in the epigastric area. But actually, if you modify your technique, you might be able to reduce procedures, for example, that with like 5 incisions to 3 to even 2, because you can modify and you can reuse this grasper in different positions, so you don't have to use 2 different ports for generating the same motion in the surgery. But of course, yes, you also need electrodissector, scissors, clip applier, other instruments. We don't replace everything, but we see as a key product because I mean, scissors, electrodissectors are more a commodity kind of product. So that's why we focus in the more, at this stage, we're focused more in what is the key product in order to enable this transition from less invasive procedures.
Oh, yeah, it's intriguing. I like the idea that you're working upon, but it just seemed, if I'm a physician in there, why would I not put an electrosurgical cutter or a separate grasper of my own? Why would I take the jump to Levita?
Yeah, that's a fascinating discussion. I mean, it's very similar what happened when the movement from open surgery to laparoscopy. You have some surgeons who says, hey, why 4 small incisions? Why we do 1, 2, 3, 4? Right. Let's do like a mini laparotomy, and it's the same. And actually, it's not the same. I mean, that's it's very a lot of like a literature that is proving that the damage in the abdominal wall, even as a small kind of increases in the damage, is actually what is the most impactful in the postoperative kind of recovery of patients. But for an issue about kind of like how we are kind of wired in terms of sensitivity and creation of pain. So the reduction of the damage in the abdominal wall is a critical factor if you want to keep improving the good results of laparoscopy. So yeah, it's a very good topic that we discuss with other surgeons, and it's a very, what do you say? I know it's a lot of debate, but we have data that demonstrate that, and we've seen it clinically too. So
yeah, good, thank you. And
David, do you think that Cook could conceivably be a strategic partner for Alberto?
It could be. I was going to mention when we started talking, maybe Alberto or others know, Cook has a device for esophageal atresia.
Yes.
In development, the esophagus in the baby doesn't connect to the stomach, so it stops. And I think we have an indication 4 centimeters or some number. I've never worked on the product, but we run a rare earth magnet on a catheter down from above. We come in through a surgical incision in the stomach and put a magnet there, and these magnets will attract pretty quickly. It's a humanitarian use device, and minimal uses as humanitarian, 5, 10 a year, but it prevents all of the surgery that Alberto is talking about. Now you've got your 3-day-old baby or whatever they are, and mom and dad are pretty happy to have a minimal surgery, have the tissues come together. They say the magnets are so strong, they can pierce right through this fleshy part of your hand if you put them on there. I've not tried it, I don't plan to, but yeah, the magnetic technology is fascinating. The robotic is fascinating. Would Cook, it's a possibility, yes.
The next in-person meeting for this group is April 11th in San Diego, so maybe pencil it in, and I would be overjoyed if I helped get a company like Alberto's, a strategic partner like yours. Rains, you have a question.
I did, and admittedly, I had one ear in because I was trying to get to some time-sensitive emails, so I might have missed it. But you kind of breezed over the development process as if it was no small feat. A good chunk of my time is working with teams, trying to help them out in completing the design and development process, creating that design documentation to give to FDA, et cetera. I know that it's no small feat, so I didn't know how close you were to that, if you could relay any lessons learned, any recommendations to other teams. just on the design development process or assembling your team?
Yeah, no, that's a great topic, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to move countries and be based here in the Bay Area, in order to bring people who are kind of experts in especially kind of like quality system, the design, kind of documentation, and yeah, really I learned early on that for the FDA processes and regulatory processes, documenting is the key factor in all the steps that we are performing. And of course, we bring people who are knowledgeable and have a track record of developing other products that are part of our company and help us with all those processes. We're very strict on those processes. So yeah, well, we're very proud that we have internal audits that we focus a lot in terms of having a very robust documenting kind of like processes. So yeah, it's a very important focus in our company.
Yeah, one follow-up question that a lot of teams I work with struggle to find, especially in software, team members with experience in medical device industry. Were you able to find team members that had the robotic software and the medical device experience, which always helps with that documentation mindset?
Yeah, it's, as I mentioned, it's an important topic for us. It's not my expertise, but we have other team members who are engaged on that.
Okay.
Just to Rick Stockton, that Reigns is part of Michelle's team, and there might be an opportunity for you guys to talk and work together.
Yeah, we're always happy. I mean, we, as a small company, we develop some internal capabilities, but of course we rely on third parties because it makes no much sense at this stage to subcontract. I mean, to contract directly many of the functions. It makes much more sense to kind of subcontract up to when we reach a stage that makes sense to incorporate the activity. So yeah, happy to talk, and I can also direct to my COO, who is really in charge of all the activities.
Yeah. All right.
My friend Andrea had to leave the call, but she asked a question about your commercialization strategy. When we hope, sail through FDA and you're ready to do a little bit of selling here in the US, what are your early thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we have learned that we have to start with few centers where we kind of partner, because I mean, with this it's a new technology. We are the new entrants in this space. We're creating a lot of things. So we partner with key centers. So we have identified already in the US partners for us that we want to start kind of like slow, very close to them, refine the product, also refine marketing kind of messaging, also documenting patient experience, gathering data. And then we see that we want to have like a bigger commercial rollout after we have this initial learning of entry to the market. I mean, we have a very, how to say, like scientific approach to everything we are doing. We try to do kind of a small testing and learn about that, and then going a little bit kind of like growing from there.
How much money do you have left before you need to do another series? I imagine that would be a Series B.
No, actually, will be a Series D, that it will be like a full commercial kind of for commercial growth. And luckily, we're well funded, and investors are very kind of happy with our progress. We have a track record of developing another product. We have a robot that is working in clinical trials. So we're very bullish of our future. So luckily, we have resources to keep moving forward.
I'm curious about how you are resetting the valuation series to series. So perhaps when it was friends and family only, can you, if it's not too proprietary, can you give us a sense of how you valued the company back then and where it is now?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that also I have the how to say, like the lack of working a lot with Glenn French. I don't know if someone is familiar with him. He's the current CEO of Pulmonx that also is here in the area. And yeah, and he was very kind of straightforward with me to say, like, valuation, you have to be very careful. Kind of, it's better to kind of have a steady growing valuation than trying to give like big jumps, because
right.
That way you protect of kind of the fluctuation of the market. So also we have been very disciplined in the company in terms of slowly growing our valuation with solid kind of milestones that give the support. But of course, we use benchmarks of the market, and we are monitoring other companies, but we have a very solid plan in terms of value increasing points that increase the valuation of the company, and we're very responsible in order to give a good opportunity for investors, also for our team, in order to capture the value. So
your last valuation was at what, if you're comfortable sharing?
It's a confidential thing, but I still think I think it's still low, but that's the only thing that I can comment.
Sure. Maren?
So I was just typing it in the chat, but Alberto, I know it's actually very related to Joe's question. I know you mentioned you've already raised 40 million.
Mm-hmm.
The process of setting up manufacturing, getting your marketing plan out there, getting these units into people's hands and training them, it's pretty expensive and potentially long period. Do you have enough funding to carry you through that? Or if not, given your high current valuation, assuming that you've raised 40 million, what's your strategy for fundraising?
Yeah, actually, we have raised 40 million in all this time with Levita. The last round was 26 million. Yeah, I mean, we have a very good team that we have experience. I mean, we have a very strong board that also have experience in terms of how to navigate different stages of the company. So we have a very solid plan to keep moving forward and have the resources that we need. Also, we're a very lean company that we leverage a lot of, for example, clinical trials. We try to be very, very focused and very lean in terms of how we develop the different stages. So yeah, we have a very solid plan that incorporates, of course, future rounds of financing, but having kind of clear milestone, creating kind of like a point. So.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And these conversations are among my favorites when we have someone talk to us about their company, and all of my functional expert friends can comment and help where possible. So thank you very much. I hope April 11th works out for you. You can join us in San Diego. And friends, I don't have a speaker ready for next week. So if you know someone in a position like Alberto's where they're looking to commercialize their product, that'd be great. Other topics of interest, that'd be appreciated. And actually, as I look, Josue, you're my guy to help people commercialize in Mexico. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but do you have some early thoughts for Alberto about OUS markets?
Well, definitely what we've seen with clients that are looking into FDA first is that the compliance for the quality management system, to go to Mexico, they would need compliance with the 13485 ISO, not the FDA only quality management system. So that's something that may stop the project in Mexico for registration purposes, right? So that's something important to keep an eye out that we've seen with projects, the GMP certificate. And Alberto, where are you originally from? What's your background? Are you,
I am from Chile. Actually,
okay.
I half Chilean, half Spanish. But I grew up in Chile. So yeah, I'm familiar with Latin America. So.
Excellent.
Where were you born, Josue?
Mexico City.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Everybody.
I really enjoyed the conversation, and
Me
I also
too.
appreciate the feedback. I'm always open to questions and challenging the ideas that we're doing. But I mean, we're very optimistic about what we bring. So well, thank you very much.
Really good to see you again. And if I have to invite you on webinars to get time with you, I'll do it all the time.
All right. Okay.
Be well,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Until
Bye-bye.
next week.